morning.
Good morning.
And Merry almost Christmas, everybody. We're going to get up and start to sing. I'm going to sing. So, everybody, join me. I think we've said this before. Gonna sing when the Spirit says sing. I'm gonna sing when the Spirit says sing. And behold the Spirit of the Lord. I'm gonna shout when the Spirit says shout. I'm gonna shout when the Spirit says shout. I'm gonna shout when the Spirit says shout. And behold the Spirit of the Lord. I'm gonna pray when the Spirit says pray. I'm gonna pray when the Spirit says pray. I'm gonna pray when the Spirit says pray. And behold the Spirit of the Lord. I'm gonna work when the Spirit says work. I'm gonna work when the Spirit says work. I'm gonna work when the Spirit says work. And behold the Spirit of the Lord. Okay, we may not sing this one live, but I think you will catch on to the tune. Come sing a song of joy, for peace shall come, my brother. Sing, sing a song of joy, for we shall love each other. That day will dawn just as sure as hearts that are pure forevermore. No one must stand alone with outstretched hand before him. Reach out and take them in yours with love that endures forevermore. Then sing a song of joy for love and understanding. Sing a song of joy, of freedom, tell the story. Sing, sing a song of joy for love in its glory. One mighty voice that will bring a sound that will ring forevermore. Then sing a song of joy for love and understanding. Yes. And then our greeting song is a little new too, and poor Sue got, I think, a strange something. So it's not exactly maybe as you see in your insert, so we'll just go with it. I'll guide you the best I can. No more fighting hearts and fighting, no one people, no one dream. Hate is dying, love is rising, on a world awakening. Children Chloe. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel His mighty power and grace. I can hear the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. In the midst of His children, the Lord said He would be. It doesn't take very many. It can be just 2 or 3. And I feel that same sweet spirit that I felt oft-times before. Surely I can say I've been with the Lord. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel His mighty power and grace. I can hear the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. There's a holy hush around us as God's glory fills this place. I've touched the hem of His garment. I can almost see her face, and my heart is overflowing with the fullness of His joy. I know without a doubt I've been with the Lord. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel His mighty power and grace. I can hear the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I invite you to close your eyes for a moment as we continue with our opening prayer. Take a breath and go with God. Dear Father, Mother God, we give thanks for this glorious Sunday morning. We are thankful for our church home and our church family. And on a theme of joy, Joseph Campbell wrote in The Power of Myth, "Follow your bliss and don't be afraid, and doors will open where you didn't know there were going to be. When I allow joy to be my compass, I can trust my heart to show me the way through my life. Whether I am applying for a new position, getting to know a new friend, or planning a trip, I follow my inner inspiration. Obstacles are no challenge for me. My path is clear, and I move forward. Joy guides me to my greatest good and allows me to experience all of life's abundant blessings." We bless this service as we bless every service, whether it be in a church, synagogue, or mosque, where the abiding principle is the love and the light of God. And so it is. So it is. Good morning.
Good morning.
We'll jump right in this. It's Advent, in the season of Advent, and with the Toronto family, please come and light our next Advent.
Keep on doing the things that you have learned and received and heard, seen in me, and the God of peace will be with you.
I resolve to on this day of Advent, I resolve to live with an open, forgiving heart and bless others, families, friends, and even strangers with my presence.
The pink candle.
Pink, which one?
The pink candle in the front.
They don't.
The pink one in the front, please. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Please join with us in singing the first verse of our faithful hymn sing.
Now it's time for announcements. After you know, our first announcement is put your phone in church mode. And platform system, please read this. We are currently videotaping and live streaming this service so that we can welcome our online brothers and sisters into our sanctuary to share in God's message and grace. I see a few new faces. Thank you for joining us. You should have received a welcome packet. In that packet, there's a connection card. Fill out a connection card and hand it to Bob after service, and you will have a nice welcome gift. The connection card helps us guide our ministry in which direction and classes to speak, speakers to have. Next Sunday, December 15th, Reverend Janine Macklin will join us as we continue observing the Advent season and the exploration of our December theme, Awakening Joy. As you plan your holiday activities, please keep in mind our two special services this month. And if you haven't ever been with either one of these, this is worth it. On Christmas Eve at 7 p.m., we will have our traditional Unity Christmas candle lighting, which this year will be led by Reverend Bill Engelhardt. And it's an interactive, you're involved, so it's a fun time. Unless you're really nervous, relax. Again, I go back to Reverend Stan. If you are fearful of organized religion, welcome. We are very unorganized. Let's see, and on Sunday, December 29th, Dr. Nikki Elliott will lead our burning bowl ceremony within our regular Sunday service. And the burning bowl is letting go of everything that you want to let go of and planning for the next new year, the new beginnings. Our prayer partner for today is Reverend Barbara Adams. Right here, you can find her back in the corner after service for some one-on-one prayer. All of our prayer partners are trained in affirmative prayer. We invite you to join us today and every Sunday after service. We have a time of fellowship with snacks provided by generous volunteers. Today's treats are being provided by Dan Simpson. And I see it as an eye. All right. And now our opening statement, which is can be found in our bulletin. I call this Unity 101. It's the cornerstone. Every time you get lost, come right back here and say, there is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God, good. Amen. Help us prepare for that teaching.
Lord, prepare
focus on your breath. Natural in and out of your breath. It's just something to focus on as we spend the next few moments going within, being in the presence. Now take a deep breath. And release. Again, if it feels comfortable, I invite you to place both your feet on the floor, making a connection with our mother mind. Allow the energy to flow, relaxing the muscles in your legs. Sit back in your chair, allow the chair to support you. Relax your shoulders, your arms. Now another deep breath. And release. Again, if it feels comfortable, I invite you to place your hands in your lap with your palms open, hands facing upward. Open to the blessings, open to the prosperity, the abundance, the love, the healing energy. Now another deep breath. And release. Roll your head around a little bit, relax the muscles in your neck. You can hear the pops and the cracks of things that they're releasing, especially this time of the year. Let it go. And one more deep breath. And release. Now just notice your thoughts. Acknowledge, let them pass. Acknowledge and let them pass. Even if you say, I will be with you later. Right now we are this moment. The Spirit of wisdom speaks in the silence. Everything I ever need to know arises from within the silence. I train my busy mind to slow and still, to focus, be attentive. For wisdom is a whisper of truth. Right now, I give birth to divine wisdom. And we spend the next few moments just listening in the silence. In the silence. In the silence. It is not I, but the Christ within who does the work. It is not I, but the Christ within who does the work. Now let's affirm this together as we sing the Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
It is my honor and pleasure to introduce our speaker for today. One of our own, can I say homegrown? He's been very popular, at least in my heart and mind. Always shares his humor and wisdom. And he's a father, and a teacher, and a filmmaker, and a creator who uses the craft of storytelling to reveal spiritual truths and help others do the same. Today, his talk, Awake and Sing. Please welcome Mr. Matt Toronto.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I love this time of year. I love the music. I love. There we go. Better?
Yeah.
I have the mic. I love the music. I love the joy that just is sprinkled around the lights, the trees, the poinsettias, the candles. Those kinds of things just start to bring joy into, I think, our remembrance. And I think sometimes we forget that it should be here all the time. And that's a little bit of what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about Christmas. I want to talk about this holiday we celebrate and what it's really about. And I want to start with the weirdest part about it. Let's start with the weird part about Christmas. We're celebrating the birth of Jesus. And the weird thing about this birth is that it was this virgin birth. And it's kind of a weird thing to think about, and we have to say, well, was this some sort of like scientific marvel or something like that? And you know what, I don't really care if it was or not, and that's not really the issue. The thing I want to bring to your attention, though, is that in almost every other culture, every other religion, every other mythology in the world, there is some form of virgin birth or miraculous birth or God and human being sort of, some child being born as the result of the union of God and a mortal. And that's weird too. And yet it happens in every culture, and so I think there must be a reason for that. I think there's something interesting. And sorry if we're going to go in a little bit of sort of academic discussion of Christmas, which is, I taught at a university for a long time, so forgive me. But I think it's interesting that every culture has some form of this virgin birth, this God and human meeting and becoming a child. And I think there are reasons for that. And I think part of that reason is that it is metaphoric or indicative of our experience as human beings. I think it captures what it's like to be human. And let me explain what I mean by that. Because we know that we are in these frail bodies that get sick, they die, we have hardships, we have tough times, we are mortal, finite beings. And yet, I wager, I hope that each one of you has had some experience in your life where you felt powerful, strong, infinite, godlike. And these things happen in our lives. It's a bit of a dual sort of existence that we have. And I think that's what this story is pointing to. That we have this mortal experience and we have this immortal, godlike experience. If you've ever watched the Star Wars movies and when Luke is learning the Force, don't tell me you didn't sit in that theater and feel like you had the Force too. You know you felt that. At least I did. But those superhero stories where we see, Thor, conjuring the lightning, I mean, we felt that in our lives. My mom talks about when she had 4 babies, all boys. But each time she had a baby, she talked about this amazing experience of feeling like so close to God and feeling so powerful as this being that gave birth to another being. And I think that's a little bit what this birth story is all about. And so let's talk a little bit more about this sort of dual nature that Christ sort of represents. Because the metaphors for this duality continue throughout this entire story. Here you have Joseph and Mary, extremely poverty-stricken, really. There's no room in the inn. And I don't know about you, I doubt it was because there was really no room. I'm pretty sure it was because they couldn't pay. And nobody wanted to let this pregnant woman who was going to probably, pop at any moment. They probably didn't want to let her stay. And if they didn't have the cash for it, and so, I think you have this sort of poverty-stricken family giving birth in a stable with animals around in a manger, and yet the entire universe recognized the birth of this child because a star in the heavens shone down upon this tiny child. And it goes farther than that. These poverty-stricken people, this baby was born in a manger, and yet kings traveled miles, hundreds and thousands of miles to bring gifts, riches, to bestow riches upon the poorest possible child. Do you see how this dichotomy is sort of carried through this entire story? This poor, mortal human mixed with these exalted experiences, mixed with this godlike power. Let me tell you one more that sort of brings us into this that kind of drives it home, I think, for me. We have shepherds in a field, also poor, also humble, also just trying to make enough scratch to live. And an angel comes and says, and bears glad tidings of great joy. Why? Because a child is born. Because one child is born. And I've had 3 children. I didn't do that much work, but I was there for it. And you know what? I heard the angels sing when my children were born. And I know that there were angels singing when each one of you was born. And it's a beautiful thing. And that's sort of where I want to go. I want to sort of recognize that when a child is born, when a human is born, we are becoming, something great is happening. There is something weak and tiny and frail, and something powerful and divine and infinite happening in each human that is ever born. And that's when we talk about the Christ within. The Christ within does the work. We're talking about this divine identity that imbues every single one of us with God-like faculties and with the ability for something greater than this mortal world that we seem to be entrenched in. And this duality between what is finite and weak and what is infinite and strong and powerful, when they merge, it creates this experience that is what we have every single day. And what I want to encourage us all to do is to remember that. We're going to talk about how we do that, because the theme today is, I'm not really following my notes. I brought my notes up here, but the theme today is about awakening joy, right? That was sort of the assignment, my assignment. It was about awakening joy. And I started to think as I was preparing, how do we awaken joy? How do we experience joy? And after all the thinking, after all the sort of studying, and I did some reading, and I was just kind of thinking about what am I going to say about this? Especially at this Christmas time. And I stumbled upon something in my mind, and I think it's true. And I'm going to share that with you. Joy is our natural state. And so when we talk about awakening joy, if you want to have joy in your life, all it takes is awakening. There's not much left. If you are awake, to this identity that you have, this Christ-like identity, right? That is part God, part human, and merged into this one experience that you're having at this moment. When you are awake to that, your natural state will be joy. I promise you that. That is our natural state. We are here to have joy. And it's a natural state, but it requires us being awake. Understanding who we are and understanding our place in this world. That we are weak and tiny, and that if you look at the size of the universe, we are on this tiny planet, and we are tinier than the tiniest planet. A million Earths will fit in the sun, I think. A lot of Earths will fit into the sun, right? And the sun is just a medium-sized star in a medium-sized galaxy, right? They're tiny, insignificant specks in this universe. And yet, angels sing when each one of us is born. And if understanding that doesn't bring joy, I don't know what will. So I want to talk a little bit more in the context of this Christmas story. I want to talk a little bit more about how we can awaken. Okay? Because I'm not going to teach you how to find joy, because there are lots of things that make us happy. There are lots of things that are cool, like, oh, I got a new cool job, or this award, or, I came into a bunch of money. Sure, those things will make us happy, but that's not what we're talking about when we're talking about joy. We're talking about living in a state of awareness, of oneness, of presence. Okay? And there are a lot of ways to do that. And that's one of the reasons we engage in spiritual practice, I believe, is so that we can experience that on a regular basis. And ultimately, we want to experience it on a permanent basis. It's tough. It's tough. And some days you're like, yeah, I'm really in the zone. And some days you're really not in the zone. And some minutes you're in the zone, and some minutes you're not. And it's tough. So we have spiritual practices that help lead us to the state of awakening, this state of being born, right? This is a birth story, right? Being born into this identity of greatness. And so we have things like prayer and meditation. We have things like the gratitude journals, which I think are fantastic, but giving thanks are things that awaken us to the truth of our connection to the universe, of our connection to one another, of the power that resides in each one of us. Okay, the consciousness. Speaking of Joseph Campbell, I was just reading the other night, Joseph Campbell said something like, we are the consciousness of the universe, right? We are the ones that observe it. We are the ones that give meaning to it because we have consciousness. And there's something beautiful about that. Well, there's a spiritual practice that I don't think gets a lot of attention, and I want to bring it up today, and it has to do with that singing choir, that choir of angels. And I believe it's music. Okay, the title of my talk is Awake and Sing, and this is a quotation from the prophet Isaiah, who said, "Awake and sing, ye that dwell in the dust." He's talking a little bit about the possibility of resurrection, and but I think it's also we who dwell on this dusty planet, awake and sing because we exist, because existence has happened, and we are a part of it. And there to witness. We are a part of God. And that's something beautiful. So I want to talk a little bit about the power of music to help us awaken. Okay? And I've got a couple of stories to share in that regard. And they certainly descend. One is really a really big story. Then is a pretty cool, medium big story. And then a really small story. But the point is, I want to sort of examine and explain how music sort of affects us. And the first story I want to share happened in World War I, Christmas Eve, World War I. The Germans and the Allies were entrenched. It was trench warfare, and they were in trenches, soggy, gross trenches, and they were in this battle that was interminable. And on Christmas Eve, they had all had about enough of it. And the British soldiers heard Germans singing Stille Nacht, which is Silent Night. And they recognized the song. And they joined in and they sang. And do you know what? For the next day, there was no violence. All through Christmas, in fact, there were people that got up out of the trenches, walked into no man's land, the most dangerous place in the world at that time. And they exchanged gifts, they sang, they shared drinks and food, whatever they had, and it was peace. And the power of music brought that. There are other factors involved. It was the power, I think, of the spirit of Christmas, right? But music was the beginning of that awakening. When they recognized we aren't enemies, we are the same, we are one. And it wasn't until the higher-ups forced them to start fighting again that the war continued, which is a tragedy. But it reminds me that music has the power to transcend and transform us, to awaken us to who we are. Let me tell you another story. This was when my grandfather was very sick. This is a story my mom tells. He was very sick. He was in the hospital sick with cancer, and he was probably on he was going to be going soon. And my mom, he was in the hospital, and my mom was still going back and forth to work. She worked, it was an hour drive from where where we lived in Michigan, in Ann Arbor, and my grandfather was in the hospital there in Ann Arbor, and she was commuting on her way home. And there were no cell phones, right? She was commuting on her way home. And on her way home, she turned off the radio and was overcome by the desire to sing How Great Thou Art, which is my grandfather's favorite hymn. And so she turned off the radio and just sang. Just sang. And when she got home, my dad met her in the driveway and said, "Your father passed away at whatever time." And it was exactly at the same moment that she began to sing. Okay? And so I believe in the power of music, not just because I've been involved in music all my life, but because I've had these kinds of experiences. I'm going to tell you one more that's way less intense and way less, miraculous. But when I became a father, I would start to sing my kids to sleep. Okay? And do you know what songs I sang? Harry Belafonte. I sang Harry Belafonte. Do you know why I sang Harry Belafonte? Deo, Jamaica Farewell, all of these island songs. Do you know why I sang those? Because those were the songs my father sang to me when I was going to sleep. He would wander back and forth between, there were four of us, he would wander back and forth down the hallway, walking into each of our rooms while he sang Harry Belafonte. And when I sang that to my children, I felt connected through time to my own childhood. Right? Can you understand that? Singing music is one of the few things that we do all together. Even in this room, we sing together one song, and it unites us. And when we sing these songs, especially these Christmas songs, and other songs that have come to us down from the ages, it connects us through time to every human who ever sang that song. And I think it reminds us not only that we are divine beings in our individual selves, but we are a divine oneness as humankind. And that we're connected to each other, to the universe. And when we recognize that, we are filled with love. And there's no question about violence, hurt, or pain. That dissolves the way it did for the World War I soldiers. The desire to hurt one another dissolved because they realized they were the same. So not only does music have the power to awaken us, and there are studies, the scientific studies are overwhelming about what music does to help us be healthier, happier. It increases children's mind, intellectual faculties, and it just makes us better human beings when we're involved in music, when we make music, when we listen to music. And I believe there's more to music than just what we sing and play, but there's a music that exists in the entire world. The sounds, even the sights that we see become a visual, oral music that connects us to who we are and to what we are, which is God come to earth to experience this moment. And so I say, bring music into your life as much as possible, in every way possible. Make it a part of your spiritual practice. Whether you're a great singer or a terrible singer or anything in between, I don't believe in terrible singers. What I mean is, if you believe that about yourself, let go of it and let the music move you. Okay? Because it will help us all become more awake. And when you are awake, there is only joy. And so it is.
This can be a bit of a sing-along. It's important to do that. Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Shepherds, why this jubilee? Why your joyous strains prolong? What the gladsome tidings be, which inspire your heavenly song? Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Glory in the highest. Come to Bethlehem and see him whose birth the angels sing. Come adore on bended knee Christ the Lord, the newborn King. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis
And one more time for Richie. Our speaker contributes an affirmation for each week. If all of the lesson, please find the affirmation together. We will say, I love it. When I awaken to the music of the moment, I awaken to joy. And now we have our prayer request box coming to the front. The prayer request box is always in the back of the sanctuary over here. You can write your prayer request, place it in the box, pray it on here for 30 days, and then it's sent to you. Villagers pray on another 30 days. And we all know the power of prayer. So please rub our hands together, get the energy combined. Father, Mother God, we embrace these prayer requests for healing, loving, nurturing life. If there's a prayer request you didn't get to write down, just visualize it. I know that it too. And as we send healing prayer to our congregants, particularly our IUs, and then we let go and let God. And so it is.
And so it is.
And now we have the opportunity to share and receive our gifts. Energy on there. We will say the affirmation together and then we'll sing God is so good. Please say the affirmation with me. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive.
God is so good. God is so good. God is so good. He's so good to me.
and sing and awaken to the joy that is inherent in our very selves. And so it is.
So it is.